What if the world's been missing the most beautiful part of you, not because it's hidden, but because they never knew where to look? In this video, we're diving into a truth that gets missed far too often, yet it has the potential to reshape how we view ourselves and those around us, especially as we grow older. It's about redefining beauty. It's about how quickly people form opinions based on looks, age, or body shape, while the most meaningful parts of us stay hidden in plain sight. But this isn't only about how others perceive us, it's also about the way we choose to see ourselves. Let me share a story with you, one that left a lasting impression on me. It's about an older woman named Clara, known in her small village for her gentle wisdom and the kindness in her eyes. She once shared the story of Leila, a woman whose body drew stares, but not understanding, a woman who carried the weight of judgment wrapped in compliments that never touched her heart. Through Clara's insight and Leila's quiet pain, we'll uncover a truth many miss: that your spirit, your empathy, and your lived experiences define you far more than any mirror ever could, and how embracing those truths can lead to a more confident, more compassionate life. By the end of this video, you won't just see yourself differently, you'll know how to build deeper, more meaningful relationships with others, and most importantly, with yourself. Comment 1 if you've ever felt unfairly judged for how you look, or if someone close to you has. Let's begin shifting how we see beauty, starting right here, right now. In a small village nestled between golden hills and fields of wildflowers, there lived a young woman named Leila. She wasn't loud, and she never asked to be the center of attention. But wherever she went, eyes followed. Leila had the kind of beauty people couldn't help but notice. Her curves were soft, full, and undeniable, but the attention they brought wasn't admiration, it was assumption. "She must know what she's doing," some whispered. "A body like that doesn't just happen by accident." Others said less, but stared longer. To the people in her village, her body spoke louder than her voice. They saw the shape of her hips, the sway in her walk, the softness in her frame, and made up entire stories about who she must be. But no one asked her about the books she loved, the songs she sang in private, or the dreams she quietly carried in her heart. No one wondered why her smile sometimes felt forced, or why her eyes often searched the ground as she walked, because Leila wasn't just being noticed, she was being judged. Her body became both a crown and a cage. On the outside, people praised her beauty, but on the inside, she felt trapped, like a character in someone else's story, playing a role she never auditioned for. There's a unique kind of pain that comes from being defined by your body. It's loud but silent. It's visible but isolating. And over time, it can make you question your own value beyond the physical. What happens when the world only sees the outside and never asks about the inside? That's when Clara stepped in, a woman who had lived through her own storms and learned to see deeper. She watched Leila quietly, not with judgment, but with understanding, and she knew it was time someone reminded this young woman that she was so much more than what others chose to see. Clara saw through it all. She had lived long enough to know the difference between being noticed and being seen, and she knew the silent heartbreak of feeling invisible, not because you disappeared, but because people stopped looking for the real you. She had seen it in herself, in her friends, and now in Leila. It was the same grief, just in different skin. So, one evening, as the village gathered near the fire to listen, Clara stood up and spoke. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. It always did when she spoke from her heart. "You see her smile lines," Clara began, "but do you know the years of joy and sorrow that carved them? You see her body, but do you feel the burden it's carried, the pain it's absorbed, the love it's given without asking for anything back?" There was silence, the kind that falls when truth hits too close. Many men over 50 say they want to understand women better. This is where it starts. Because something happens after childbirth, after heartbreak, after menopause. It's not that women fade, it's that the world's gaze shifts. People stop looking with curiosity and start looking with assumptions. Some stop looking altogether. But what they miss is this. That's the very stage in life when a woman becomes her most profound. Her emotions deepen, her sense of self strengthens, her connection to love, to intuition, to compassion. It all matures. She becomes richer in ways the eye can't see. But most people don't look long enough to find out. Clara knew that Leila's beauty wasn't just in her body. It was in her resilience, her quiet strength, and the way she carried herself with grace, even when no one clapped. And when you only look at the body, you miss the soul, and the soul, that's where the real magic is. One afternoon, Leila sat beside Clara under the old olive tree where they often met. Her eyes, usually guarded, were glossy with emotion. "Is this all they see?" she asked quietly. "Just my body?" Clara didn't answer right away. She just reached over, took Leila's hand, and looked at her with the calm wisdom that only comes from living through decades of being misunderstood. "No, sweetheart," she said softly. "They see what they're trained to see. But that's not all. There is. You are not your body," she continued. "You are the way you listen when someone's voice trembles. You are the way you show up when it matters. You are the warmth in a room that no one sees coming. True beauty," Clara told her, "isn't something that fades with time. It's something that deepens. It lives in your laugh, your kindness, the way you hold space for people when they can't hold themselves." "Every kindness you offer," Clara said, "is like sunlight through stained glass. People may not notice it right away, but once it hits them, it stays." She leaned in a little closer, and here's something most people never understand. Attraction grows. Real connection doesn't come from perfect skin or a flawless body. It comes from shared laughter, whispered truths, and moments when you feel safe to be fully yourself. That day, something shifted in Leila. Not everything changed overnight, but she started to walk a little lighter, not because others stopped judging, but because she stopped letting those judgments define her, because she finally believed it. Beauty wasn't something she had to prove. It was something she already carried, and once you see that in yourself, you start to see it in others too. If you're a man over 50, this might surprise you. Your age doesn't reduce your ability to connect. It deepens it. In fact, the more life you've lived, the more capacity you have to understand, empathize, and emotionally engage. And that's where real attraction begins. Because here's the truth. What women over 45 long for isn't perfection. It's presence. Not flashy words or grand gestures, but small things. How you listen, how you show up, how you make her feel seen. For many women, especially those who've experienced years of being overlooked, emotional connection is everything. It's not about being physically flawless. It's about emotional safety, maturity, and depth. When you stop seeing her body as a symbol and start seeing her as a story, everything changes. When a woman feels emotionally safe, she relaxes. When she feels valued, she opens. When she feels truly seen, not for how she looks, but for who she is, her desire grows naturally. And this isn't just romantic talk. Research backs this up. Studies have shown that emotional intimacy is the biggest predictor of sexual satisfaction in older couples. One study even found that couples in their 60s and 70s who reported feeling emotionally connected were more likely to describe their sex life as fulfilling than those decades younger. Why? Because emotional connection ignites the body in ways youth never could. It releases trust hormones, it lowers stress, it increases energy, vitality, and even boosts libido. So if you're wondering how to keep your relationship alive, or even spark something new, The answer isn't in chasing youth or trying to impress. It's in showing up fully, paying attention, being curious, and leading with care. The truth is, when a man truly sees a woman, not just her body, but her soul, he gives her something the world rarely offers, the freedom to be her full self, and in return, she often gives him the deepest version of herself too. Clara's story wasn't just about Leila. It was about what every man can learn, if he's truly ready to see beyond the surface. She didn't just speak for one woman. She spoke for generations of women who have lived, loved, and felt unseen. Women are emotional beings, not because they're weak, but because they're wired for connection. Their emotional wisdom comes from years of reading between the lines, of caring for others without always being asked, of carrying invisible weight with grace, and too often that wisdom is ignored. But if you're a man who wants to be admired, respected, and deeply desired, you have to offer those things first. That's the key. It's not about having all the answers. It's about being present. See her when she's tired, not just when she's dressed up. Listen when she says, "I'm fine." And know that might mean she needs you to ask again. Compliment her strength, her kindness, her patience, not just her appearance. Because here's what so many men don't realize. When a woman feels emotionally safe, everything changes. Her energy shifts, her body softens, her intimacy deepens. And yes, science confirms this too. Studies show that when a woman feels loved, her cortisol levels drop. Her oxytocin, what we call the love hormone, rises. That means lower stress, better sleep, more energy, and even signs of slower aging. Love, real love, doesn't just change her mood. It changes her biology. So when you show up, not with gifts or fixes, but with presence, you give her something rare, peace. And here's the beautiful twist. When she feels seen, she wants to see you too. Not just the mask you wear, but the man beneath it. That's where real connection starts. Care is chemistry. Presence is power. And if you want to truly be seen, start by seeing her first. As the sun dipped behind the hills and painted the village in warm amber light, Clara gathered the townspeople under the old oak tree. The air was still, as if the world itself was leaning in to listen. Leila sat near the front, her eyes now calmer than they had been weeks ago. She had grown, not because the world had changed, but because she had begun to see herself differently. And she owed that shift to Clara, who rose to her feet with a gentle steadiness that came from years of living, losing, loving, and learning. Clara looked at each face around her, young and old, men and women, and then spoke the words she had carried in her heart for decades. "You are not your youth," she said. "You are not your shape. You are not your skin. You are how you love, how you forgive, how you walk through the world when no one is clapping." She turned to the men, many of whom sat quietly, reflecting on the stories they'd heard. "And to the men here," Clara continued, "when you truly see a woman, not for her looks but for her soul, she will open to you in ways no mirror could ever reflect. When you honor her journey, she invites you into her most sacred spaces, her trust, her warmth, her truth. Real beauty, Clara reminded them, never fades, because it was never about appearance to begin with. It was about presence. It's about how someone shows up in life, how they care, how they stay kind even when it's hard. The crowd didn't applaud. They didn't need to. There was something deeper than noise in the air, a shared understanding, a pause of reverence, and in that quiet, something inside each listener shifted. Because once you understand that real beauty lives in how someone makes you feel, you begin to see the world and yourself with brand new eyes. So let me leave you with this. Every person is more than what meets the eye, including you. Whether you're a woman who's felt unseen or a man who's been unsure of how to connect, know this. Your worth isn't tied to how you look, how old you are, or what others have said about you. We've all been misjudged, and we've all misjudged others, but it's never too late to slow down and look again, this time with the heart. You are not just a body walking through time. You're a soul wrapped in memory, experience, and love, and if no one has told you this lately, you are worth more than you know. If this story touched something inside you, I'd love to hear from you. Comment 1 below to let me know you're still here, still listening, still feeling. And if it didn't quite connect with you, that's okay too. Drop a 0 and tell me what you needed instead. I read every comment, and if there's someone in your life who needs to hear this, someone who's forgotten their own value, please share this video with them. It could be the reminder they didn't know they were waiting for. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more content like this, the kind that doesn't just entertain, but reaches deeper. In the next video, I'll share something powerful, the most misunderstood emotional need. Women over 45 wish men understood better. Because when we learn to see with our hearts, we don't just grow older, we grow wiser, deeper, and closer to the kind of love we all deserve.